you come to a place kind of when you're kind of the college age. Like we grew up in youth group, going to church, every single Sunday, going to youth group Sunday nights, even Wednesday night stuff. Sometimes, mission trips, retreats, all of that stuff in like middle school, high school, kind of forced to do it. When do you actually think you got to the point in your faith where you wanted to participate? Like, because you thought this was real, you experienced God. Do you think that was like elementary school, middle school, high school? Do you think that happened like more like after, like college age type deal?
I'll say it like this. There were a lot of times growing up where, like you said, we were kind of forced to participate, or at least we had a bunch of our friends participating with us. Sure. So it wasn't that bad. Like right. In a youth group you like ours,
you could bear it.
Exactly. Yeah. You get to do lots of fun things.
Right.
Like, but I think I wanted to participate back then. Like I remember feeling God's spirit even in middle school, high school. But there definitely was a point to where it was around that college age time, like you said, where you really start to question things as you become a young adult and sort of live your life, not completely outside of, but apart from some of the things that you grew up with, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like if you're not going to the same church or you're no longer in the same youth group, kids that go to college get exposed to all these ideas that they kind of are sheltered from. Sure. Growing up. I mean, just all these different viewpoints, because they're no longer under their parents' roof and they're curious, Yeah. They might even have professors saying certain things and mocking God. That happens. But I came to a point to where I got more serious about the truth, whatever that was. And it was when I was 18 years old. I went to Bible college for 1 semester. School really was not my thing, at least back then. So I came home. I was no longer in the band that I was in. I had gotten out of a relationship, and then just started working full time. So there were, and kind of felt like a failure because college didn't work out for me. So I was I would call it a low point. And I was like just really bitter, questioning everything, got really hungry for the truth, and all of a sudden got all of these questions thrown at me about scripture and about the Bible and like how is it legitimate and all these things. Yeah. Because you have, for as many people that we know who completely believe the Bible and back it up, there's way more people around us every day who are on the opposite side. And a lot of them have arguments for it. You know what I mean? And I had a lot of atheist friends that I used to hang out with back then. So that being the case, I just started questioning everything at that point. I was 18, maybe 19 by then. And there were some questions that I couldn't answer, and that, scripture at least didn't answer the way that I wanted it to, or the wording that I needed, something like that. Yeah. So I remember like just diving into the Bible, seeking it out. Like if this was a faith I was going to live by, then I had to know why I believed it. Not just that I experienced all these things growing up and the blessing of God on our family, but I needed to know that the truth was true. Right. So I went to CCC at one point and sat in Luke Erb's office with him, the rabbi.
Oh, Luke, I hope you see this.
Dude's a gangster, man.
Don't inflate his head. Don't do it. Don't give him that street cred, though.
Anyway, yeah, I remember I sat in his office with him one day with a list of questions that I wrote out that I was like, how is this possible? You know what I mean? Like it was like a lot of cosmic questions that I just wanted to comprehend God, right. And I couldn't do it. It was like basically, how has God always existed? Yeah. Like what was before God? you know, and what was before that. Like all of these things, it's just like if you think about on a logical scale as human beings, like all we know is beginning and end in our world, even our universe. According to the Bible, even time, you know, like time had a beginning.
So you just start tripping out on these
Exactly.
questions.
All these cosmic questions. And I was like, so all we know is beginning, you know, cause and effects, beginning and end. And so I was just tripping out on like, how did God not have a beginning?
Right.
You know, like it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And it's because, you know, eventually there's some of those questions that you want like crazy new ideological answers to, you know what I mean, that just sound profound, but it really comes down to the conclusion of like accepting your own morality.
Yeah.
And that's what it was for me. Like how can a finite being like me completely comprehend an infinite being?
Sure.
You know, like I can't comprehend infinite because all I know is beginning and end, cause and effects, start, finish. So it was just coming, you know, coming around.
I have good
to
friends
that.
that say the idea of infinity is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like of eternity past and eternity future. Like that's just like bogus, right?
And in this point in eternity, like why did God choose this point to create the universe? And you know, it's like I don't know. Yeah, there's too many of those cosmic questions that like you can't really answer.
So do you think?
But
do you
we
think
still
he
have been given so much
right
to prove what we believe? So
do you think he was able to give you any answers that really helped you, like helped propel you forward, or did it console you maybe that he didn't have exact answers for you? Because like how can you describe God's infinite being, right? I mean, nobody can really comprehend that necessarily. So did you think you got answers that you really needed, or did you think you saw somebody who had enough faith without the answers that propelled your faith forward?
maybe a mix of both.
Okay.
Yeah. And that being over 10 years ago, I can't specifically. I know, man, I'm getting up there. I got these gray hairs. I just cut my hair though, so hopefully you can't see them.
We're not going to talk about
but yeah, so, you know, he might have given me a couple answers that like really made sense to me, but I think a lot of it was just like, hey, you're not going to ever understand every question that you have.
Right.
You know, like no matter what you believe, how true and concrete it is, like there will always be opposing opinions and there will always be questions in your mind that you're not going to have the answer that you want to it, you know?
Yeah.
You might get an answer to it, but you're just looking for something a little different to ease you.
Yeah.
And you might not get it.
Right. I think when I find myself questioning, you know, my specific faith, like the Christian faith or even others, it's like, man, you know what? They don't have answers either. Like the answers to my questions that I have that kind of have almost caused shipwreck to my faith, like other religions can't answer them. And so, you know, you're really left with a lot of the same questions and the same doubts. Okay,